level of the response of our job, what we have to do in our contacts and everything.
And also it might divert resources from other law enforcement activities to be able to manage.
Correct.
And I totally understand the enforcement situation. The issue here really to me is we've got a tidal wave. And admittedly, I think we were kind of late in preparing for this, and so we're kind of playing catch-up, and I totally understand your point of view, officer. My question here is, you know, how do we protect the citizens, and how do we protect these thoroughfares, particularly from degradation, and breakdown of those streets, while at the same time allowing you guys to be able to do your jobs and give you the tools necessary to be able to manage it. So.
And I would interject. I mean, Gardner Road, Center Street, Moonlight, 56 are designed for truck traffic.
Understood.
They're designed to handle that. So I think the key in this is the weight issue.
Mm-hmm.
They're designed to handle allowable loads, if not designed to handle overweight loads. And so, you know, again, from a management perspective or management tool, scales would certainly be a tool to help us control that weight, and the word will get out.
Do we have those mobile scales already?
No.
No, we do not. We had a set brought in for inspection lane we did, and that inspection lane, I believe we presented the numbers to you a while back after we did that. And I mean, we actually enforced some of the weight laws in that lane. It was surprising the percentage of trucks that were overweight. And again, that was not all big trucks. I mean, some of those were the dump trucks and that doing your construction, that have a right to use those walls or use those roads. I mean, the same dump trucks that are doing the construction, you know, hauling the material back and forth, some of those were the ones that were overweight, and those are the ones we ticketed during that inspection. Without having those scales, I can stop them and still inspect them, but if they're overweight, I have no way of knowing.
The other thing, too, I'd like to add is on 191st, I mentioned in option 6 additional signage. And Tim's here tonight, but Tim's been working with KDOT, Van Edgerton, and Johnson County on a signage plan. KDOT has been resistant to additional signage on I-35, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are going to allow posting a lot of additional signs on 191st and Waverly.
Yeah, and I would just, one of the problems they've had is that the Homestead interchange wasn't even recognized by Google and other GPS providers, which KDOT has made that connection to them now. So part of the problem initially was that if anybody put in that address, Google or whatever GPS would actually tell them to get off at the Gardner interchange and take 191st Street over. So part of as Brian said, KDOT's been resistant to put signs on I-35 directing truck traffic, but you may have noticed there's a variable message sign they have put out there. And what they have agreed to do is put signs on 191st Street as you come out of the intermodal, directing traffic to Homestead interchange. So that's where it is right now. Those signs haven't been put up yet.
Why do you think KDOT is resistant to putting that signage out on I-35? You would think that would be something that would be helpful to the trucks and not necessarily.
My understanding is it's primarily because it's a private business, and they don't sign for private businesses. Their feeling is, okay, if we put a sign up that says, okay, intermodal interchange, or take Homestead intermodal, and you don't actually put that up on the sign, then any business would come back to them and say, well, I'd like to have my business signed as well.
Yeah.
So whether you agree or not, that's their argument.
Keith, you had a question?
Yeah, a couple questions. Chief, obviously, the first one, I think, the common element to all of these options is enforcement. How far away do you think that we are, and what steps would need to be taken from a timeline perspective? I'm throwing you right on the spot, so forgive me for that, but how far are we away from building an effective enforcement program, whether it's additional training for an officer that would have the same credentials as Officer Hupp, whether it's scales, how we can actually enforce this, because none of these are worth anything without enforcement, so it doesn't matter at that point.
That's absolutely correct, sir. What I'd like to tell you is right now, probably what I can do is this year is commit another officer to get the training that is offered to have another certified CVSA officer to get us up to speed where I have 2 officers that are CVSA certified that can go out and conduct these inspections. I've already been in discussion with Officer Huff about working with Kansas Highway Patrol, Johnson County Sheriff's Department to hold not just one, but several different inspection events this year in this city and within our jurisdiction to help delay some of this problem. I have mentioned to City Administrator Sheriff Harrison Lee that my plans are to come back in 2015 and ask for a traffic unit with a sergeant and 2 full-time officers that is dedicated to traffic enforcement. As I would like to mention, Mr. Councilmember Shute said, you know, we are on the edge of a wave. It is coming. And regardless of how we try to do this, we need to be able to manage it. I need scales. You know, we know we're looking at $30,000. That is not cheap. That's high by anyone's standards. Certainly the ones I go by, that's expensive. But there's some things we need to get in place before we can really effectively, I feel, manage the problem correctly by 100%. Will we ever alleviate the problem? No. And what I'm hoping for and what I would like to see and what I'm aiming for is I do not want to discourage business within this community. That's certainly not what we're here for or what we want to do, but we want people to understand if you operate in our community, then you are operating within the guidelines and the rules as set out. Weight, safety, things along this line. You know, if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to hear that we may have another officer who will be able to incorporate some of that training. I think that'll be a huge step. How cooperative essentially there's 3 jurisdictions. There's the sheriff, there's the city, and then there's the state. How cooperative have the state and the city, or the sheriff's office been to help us with that enforcement, or at least cognizant to the issue that we're going to be facing here?
Okay, you know, and let me say it with this, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to kind of toot my own horn here a little bit. Since I came on board and brought in my background into this community with other law enforcement officials within this community, my knowledge, my history of them, they are 100% cooperative. Anything I have asked for from the Sheriff's Department and Kansas Highway Patrol, they have been over backwards for. This is a personal thing. They know me. We're on first-name basis. They go out of their way to help us with anything we ask for. In return, we do the same for them.
Excellent. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted to hear, I guess, from that perspective. This question actually goes towards Brian. Let's say for a moment that we consider taking the truck route off of Gardner Road. Essentially what that's going to do is force, hopefully, the traffic to go to Homestead Lane. That would obviously be the plan. Realistically, I think that would force more traffic onto Highway 56 through downtown Gardner. Is there anything in the studies that we've seen that could give us a prediction of what that traffic might look like and how that would impact the roads off of downtown that they might be turning off of, or even the businesses and parking situations, and the construction project that we have coming up at that intersection as well?
It'll be a big impact with the construction project, because we're going to have a number of lane closures when we do that intersection.
Right.
But again, if you take the truck route designation off of Gardner Road, and then shouldn't be turning south, per se, to get to the intermodal. So they would continue on 56, I guess, out to Waverly Road or in that ballpark. I haven't seen a study, or we haven't done anything to look at what that added congestion would do.
Christy, you had a question?
I actually, yeah, I have 2, I guess one's more of a statement question. As we're talking about these truck routes, we've talked about 191st and Gardner Road, I think are probably the most predominant that we've talked about in the past. And from my perspective, I think there's 2 different issues. I mean, for me, 191st Street, the road isn't made for that truck, so you have the cost issue. But from impacting residents and things like that, it's not as impactful as what you have on Gardner Road, which you not only have a cost issue, but you also have the residents there, the school there, and so forth. And I think we would be able to evaluate each of these segments in that light. Do we have the ability to post truck routes? So for instance, if we decided to leave Gardner Road, could you post a truck route that said, or post it as a truck route that state local delivery only?
If we take the truck route designation off of it, it would be for local deliveries only. I mean,
But you couldn't, I guess what I'm saying, so we are concerned with taking the truck route off, is that even those local deliveries could use any route then, correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Right? So what I'm asking is, could we post a truck route and say local deliveries only, and if